So one of the things I encourage people to understand is that we're the sum total of everything that we've ever experienced from the day that we were born to this very moment. And who we are today stems from the culture we're in, the religion you were in, whoever raised you, the movies you watched, the trauma you went through. And we have to get to a point where we decide, wait a minute, I'm going to I'm going to allow this experience to program me. And most people are not consciously aware of that. And so what happens is when we have negative trauma, subconsciously it programs us. Like somebody has a car accident. I knew one guy, he walked around town because unfortunately his wife died in a car. So now he never goes in a car. My uncle was killed in a plane crash. I'm an avid aviation fan. I fly helicopters and jets and you name it, even though my uncle got killed in a plane crash. My mom, the moment he died in a plane crash, my mom, and I this was not cool for me, but anyway, I understand where she's at. So I go to my flight school to take my next lesson, and my flight instructor says, you can't take a lesson. I go, what do you mean I can't take a lesson? Your mom called and said you're done.
Yeah.
Because my mom bought into the belief, because her brother just died in a plane crash, my uncle, that I shouldn't be flying either.
Yeah.
If that was the case, we may as well just all live in a cave and do nothing.
What is up, the Entrepreneur DNA family? We are back with another incredible guest, very interesting guest. He is an individual that came from being in a cult. He has also lost everything financially, down to $350,000 in debt, and he has made it all back and is refreshed in teaching other entrepreneurs how to be amazing. Multi-millionaire Gary Coxe is in the house. What's up, partner?
Man, good to be here, my friend. Good to be here. Finally get to meet you in person.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I've been on the phone a lot recently.
Yeah.
And you do something very special. But I have to come right out of the gate. You were in a cult.
I was.
Talk to us about
that.
that.
I had a crazy story, not to, I don't want to bore anybody, but was very successful as a teenager, making over $100,000 a year. Got married, my wife and I had a baby, then it changed the trajectory of my life forever. Later on, she tells me, Justin, that baby wasn't mine.
Oof.
Grandfather and stepfather died of cancer. Uncle killed in a plane crash. I get a phone call from my mother that my father had just been shot point blank in his chest, drowned in his own blood. All this by the time I was 21 years of age. As you mentioned, I was in a cult, born and raised in that. I left that in my 40s. And when you leave this cult, your so-called friends and family are programmed to shun you and treat you as if you're dead for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. That put me in the tailspin, $350,000 in debt, literally living on my mattress, air mattress, on the floor in my office. Went to the gym, not to take to work out, but to take my showers, and turn it all around. So it's taught me the ability to how to literally reprogram my thinking. And I did like 3 years on Dr. Phil's show, The Doctor, showing people, and I claim this is not in an arrogant way, that I can do it in an hour what a therapist or consultants don't do in a year, because I've been through so much, so I understand how we work and how we think. You can't just, it's like what we'll talk about today is how often do we know the things that we need to do? The quit smoking, the losing weight, the increasing your income, but you can't get yourself to do it. What's the psychological reason behind that? And when you understand the psychology, you understand how to make changes quickly, and that's what I'm about, how to take massive action, take changes quickly, no matter what's happened to you in your past.
Well, and you have heard my podcast before, and you know some of these guests and the stories behind it, and you have a very similar story, not similar to anyone else, but you had every reason to call it quits. You had every reason to hang it up, to just be mediocre, to be blah, go work at Best Buy or wherever,
right,
and just exist.
Yep.
Why or how did you choose not to do that?
Man, I just don't want to feel defeated. I don't want to lose. I could cry, right? I just refuse to lose. Not in a win-lose, football game type of thing, but I don't want life to beat me, and I definitely don't want that friggin' cult to beat me, right? And here's what I found out where this relates to so many people and everybody actually watching. The problems that people have in their business and in their personal life stem from the trauma that you have stuck in your emotional hard drive. And if you don't know how to clean that out and know the patterns of behavior that it keeps you in, it keeps you from having more success, then you'll keep doing the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results. So what I help people do is when you think about your computer's hard drive, right? You actually, you've been on your computer before and it gets real slow or bogged down. The reason it does it, it's your fault. You don't even know you're doing it. You're bogging it down. You go online and you see a PDF you want to download, you click it once. And if you get like me, you get a little impatient. So what do? Now you double click it.
Yeah.
You literally downloaded that 3 times.
Yeah.
Now imagine doing that for many months or many years. Your computer is going to slow down.
No doubt.
we work the exact same way. So if you had something happen to you when you were 5 years old or 5 years ago, 5 days ago, every time you relive that in your mind, you're programming your cycle deeper and deeper and deeper. And if you don't know how to clean that stuff out, you're going to feel like you're pushing a parked car. You'll be active, but you'll feel like you're accomplishing nothing. Active, but accomplishing nothing.
So give me step number one in, again, you've heard me say this, but I have 5 laws of success. The first is decide what you want and then decide who you need to be to get that thing you want, right? What would be the first step for someone to be able to unwind if you could? And it's probably not a one step.
It's not. You're right, but you're going on the right course. So here's one of the things that I tell people to do. And if you're taking notes and you're able to, I'm going to strongly suggest you jot this down. If you're not taking notes, I'm going to strongly suggest you jot this down. Or at least remember this. Here's the thing. Your brain will validate all of your beliefs, whether they are right or wrong.
Yep.
All right? So one of the things that I had to break is my life was so hard. I mean, how could I not associate that my life was pretty hard? I got proof to validate it, right?
I would say your life was pretty darn hard.
So what I have to do is I have to make sure I don't validate that. So here's how I could validate that. Let's say I leave today and, the car breaks down or whatever. Because, oh, my God, nothing goes right for me. The moment I say that, I'm validating that belief that nothing goes right for me. So now what I have to do is if something like that happens, I have to say something differently so I don't validate. Like, well, it's life. It's the way, I win more than I lose. Things like that. And you're validating your beliefs all day long for the good and also for the bad. But most people are not consciously aware of that. So if you could be consciously aware that you validate all of your beliefs, whether they are right or wrong, and then learn to validate and when you're doing it. So when you're going about your day, what are the beliefs that you're validating all day long? And that's where conscious awareness is so important.
And so when you define conscious awareness, because to me, I'll tell you, when you say it, here's how I register it. You're aware of the thoughts you are having, and you immediately can be conscious to say, let's say it was negative. Let's say your car breaks down.
Yeah.
Say, oh, why me? This always happens to me. Blah, blah, blah. Right? But you're consciously saying, wait a minute, stop that thought process.
Yes.
This is happening for a reason, so I can increase my patience level because I am deserving to have a higher interest or a patience level.
Yep.
And I can come out of this with more gratitude. Something of that nature.
Something of that nature. But here's the challenge with a lot of this. And it's not positive thinking, because positive thinking is like spray paint on rust. It does not last long. I mean, you get a car that's rusty and you sand it and spray it. It looks good for a week or two, if that. Then the rust comes back.
Right.
So you have to get to the core. So now that you're trying to change it, we're not just talking about reframing, because let's say you can't, and I say, oh, just say you can. Well, you can say you can and you can till you're blue in the face. If you still believe you can't, then you can't. So it's not just changing the story. You have to believe the story. Then that changes your life. So now the reason when we say something and don't feel it, so how do you know you bought a belief? Is when you say something new and you feel it. That's how you know you bought a belief. Why is that important to know? Because for every belief you act on, you get a result. So if you see results in your life that you're not happy with, you have to identify the belief system that causes that. But here's the other thing. Most people will tell you that beliefs are everything. Bull. Belief is not everything. How many times do you or people who believe but don't take action? So there's another part of the formula that you have to be able to take massive action. And when you have these two things and learn, for lack of a better term, learn how to manipulate them with your own mind, you are unstoppable. So the first is belief. The second is value. Value is the level of importance you place on it. That is why you can believe about their ability to do something, but you don't do anything. You can say that you value success, but if you're not doing it, that means your value of success is not as high as you would like it to be, or as like you say it is. So then, when you get excited about something, let's say you make a great deal, right? You flip something and you're just so excited. What actually is happening without you knowing it is your what is increasing. Your value and belief is subconsciously increasing instantly. The importance for you to know that it's doing it is because what happens when it goes down? If it's going down, which it will, and if you don't know it's going down consciously, how are you going to stop it to keep it from going down even further?
Yeah.
So now you become an emotional roller coaster.
Yep.
Wherever you go, wherever the wind blows, that's where you go. And you see people do this in losing weight, right? They'll lose 1,000 pounds over a lifetime. Relationships back and forth. People definitely do with their financing.
Oh, of course. So I'll relate to something. I've done everything Tony Robbins over my entrepreneur world.
Yeah.
He's been incredibly impactful for me.
Yes.
So he relates this belief, what you're saying, when you feel it,
Yep.
that is how you know it is a belief.
Yep.
That's when he's saying you need to be doing something aligned with your thoughts that physically,
Yes.
right, anatomically, you are moving
Yes.
to create the energy to develop that belief. Is that in alignment with kind of what, now I'm not saying you need to go do jumping jacks when your car breaks down.
Right. It is an alignment, but it's still also what is the thought process that's creating the new belief. You get really, really amazing at this when you can understand that when you have an experience, right? Any experience that you have to understand there's a positive viewpoint and a negative viewpoint. There's no such thing as a one-sided coin. So everything has to have two sides. So what happens is if we're not careful, we'll allow the negative crap that happens in the day or in our past that's stuck in the emotional hard drive, we'll allow it to suppress all the positive stuff. And then when that happens is we take a snowball and we just deep dive into the crap. So one of the things I encourage people to understand is that we're the sum total of everything that we've ever experienced from the day that we were born to this very moment. And who we are today stems from the culture we're in, the religion you were in, whoever raised you, the movies you watched, the trauma you went through. And we have to get to a point where we decide, wait a minute, I'm going to allow this experience to program me. And most people are not consciously aware of that. And so what happens is when we have negative trauma, subconsciously it programs us. Like somebody has a car accident. I knew one guy, he walked around town because unfortunately his wife died in a car. So now he never goes in a car. My uncle was killed in a plane crash. I'm an avid aviation fan. I fly helicopters and jets and you name it, even though my uncle got killed in a plane crash. My mom, the moment he died in a plane crash, my mom... And this was not cool for me, but anyway, I understand where she's at. So I go to my flight school to take my next lesson, and my flight instructor says, you can't take a lesson. I go, what do you mean I can't take a lesson? Your mom called and said you're done.
Yeah.
Because my mom bought
so
into the belief
terrified.
because her brother just died in a plane crash, my uncle, that I shouldn't be flying either.
Yeah.
If that was the case, we may as well just all live in a cave and do nothing. So it's a mindset.
It is, and there's so many people out there that have the victim or broke mindset,
Yes.
right? Let's talk about the person who's married to that person, the person whose best friend is that person,
Yeah.
the person whose brother or mother is that person.
Yeah, good.
Let's talk to that person.
Yeah.
How can you help them, besides sharing this podcast? Share the podcast.
Now.
Gary Coxe.
Coxe. Do it now.
Let me do that again. Share this podcast, Gary Coxe.
Do it now.
How do we help that person dealing with the mom, dealing with the husband, the wife, the brother, the sister that has that like inherent, ingrained, you will die if you go fly one more time, right?
Never forget this. Rhetorical question till I answer it. Who influences you the most? The person that influences you the most is you. Mm-hmm. Which means if you're around a lot of negativity and for whatever reason you can't get out, you're going to just get a divorce because your husband's negative right now, whatever. So if you understand that you influence you the most, that means that whatever your recordings are, that you're repeating over and over, that's influencing you more than anything. So then what we have to do is we've got to figure out how do we go ahead and change some of that influence if we need to by what? By listening to this podcast, by reading books. When I was in the cult, we were only supposed to read their crap. Well, I read now. I'm up typically at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I do that because I lost so much of my life, and I do 2 to 4 books a month because I want to make up for it, but it influences my thinking. Just coming here and hanging with you, it just influences my thinking. So you have to make a choice. If you're around a lot of negativity, where can you either shorten it a little bit more and then also replace it with being around people like you or, programs like this? It's so important. And that changes your influence because you are the one that influences you the most.
Well, speaking about reading and listening to books, you have a couple of your own.
I do. One is How to Make Your Thoughts Disappear. And what I loved about this book is when I left the cult, to go to sleep because I lost everything. I mean, it's like me taking you out of your environment saying all your friends are gone for the rest of your life. Your belief system, you don't even know what the frig it is. It's totally screwed up.
Right.
So to go to sleep, I needed 2 glasses of wine and 5 Benadryl. And I said, I can't keep living like this. So I got to the point, I figured out, okay, why do you stay up at night? You stay up at night because it's your mind. It's either excited or it's depressed or something like that. But if you could figure out how to make your thoughts disappear, then there's no reason for you to stay awake. So I go to bed like a snoring baby. I do no drugs. My liquid of choice is water, and that's it. I get high off my own supply. So that's what I talk about in this. This one is basically for people in sales. You can't fillet a nibble. It's the catch that counts. So I had a guy that used to work for me. He would always tell me about, oh, yeah, we got this person interested. This person wants to bring you in. And that's all I heard. I don't want to hear about the nibbles. Catch the fish, bring it into the boat. So you can't fillet a nibble. It does nothing to you. So what I do in this book is I show you psychologically how you keep yourself from being massively, massively persistent. And if you look at my ears, you'll notice that one ear, this my left ear, honestly, is, you see it? It's closer to my head than my right ear.
Okay.
All right? And
I don't see it, but
it is.
It's not
actually,
true.
well, you look close. It is. This one.
Okay.
The reason being is years ago when we had telephones, I would be on the phone making so many friggin' phone calls that it pushed my ear closer to my head. That is how persistent I am. In fact, on a lot of these radio shows, I used to do a lot of TV and radio. The guy used to call it Gary Coxing me. You're Gary Coxing me again because I'm calling so much. But the reason we're not persistent is what happens is if I call you once, right, and you don't respond, and I go, okay, that's okay. Let me do it one more time. And you still don't respond. All of a sudden, what do I start doing? I start creating a story. Mm-hmm. The story goes, oh, he must not be interested. So, well, if he's not interested, why would I keep calling? Mm-hmm. So I buy that story. So what I've learned to do is I might have the same story or a story, but I've learned to ignore it. And that's what you have to learn to do. The reason we have a hard time being successful is we're unfortunately a slave to our feelings. Mm. And you have to learn to ignore your feelings. You have to learn to lead your feelings and not be a slave to them. The problem is we've been programmed to be a slave to our feelings. How did you become a slave to your feelings? Well, the moment you were born, we were told what's the first thing you do? You cry.
That's right.
Right? You're hungry. What do? You cry. You want to go to the bathroom? You cry, whatever. Yeah. And how long do we do this for? Weeks and weeks and months and years. And what happens is we've also been told that the most impressionable part of our lives is usually the first, 5 years. So that means we spend nearly half or more than half the most impressionable part of our lives being a slave to our feelings. So if you don't have anything to learn to circumnavigate being a slave to your feelings, you will be prone to be a slave to your feelings. So what I encourage people to do, and what I do in my own life, is I make sure that whatever I have to accomplish in a day, let's say I have a list of 17 things, I make sure no matter what happens to me, I accomplish those 17 things by being a leader of my feelings and not being a slave to them. And your game changes when you learn to magnify the course that you need to go on and minimize the noise that happens with your emotional feelings.
There's so much to unpack. I mean, this is so great already. By the way, make sure you're following my guy Gary on all platforms.
Thank you.
Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all of them. Go to his website, GaryCoxe.com.
Yep. And all my social media is COXE, Gary Coxe, COXE.
Because this is already so good. So the feelings part.
Yes.
I say it in a different way, but maybe he's saying the same thing.
Yep.
The sales guy who calls twice tells himself a story. They buy into their story because of their feelings.
Yep. Well, thought first, then the feeling.
That's right. Now, to me, that feeling is fear of rejection. They don't like me. They don't want what I have. I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to be that guy, that girl.
Right.
I don't want to be. So they buy into this. I don't want to call 16 times because now I'm the annoying person. And that's why they don't keep going.
Which is a belief, though. That's the belief. That is the story.
Belief.
So I've done this so much. Literally, I've had people, because I've made so many phone calls to be here in front of you, if you will, through the decades I've been doing this, right?
To me.
Okay. So I've had this happen so much that I've had people say, "Oh my gosh, I'm glad you followed up. My phone fell in the toilet." I have another person say, "I'm glad you followed up. After months and months of doing this, I'm glad you followed up because my phone fell out of a 3-story window."
Absolutely.
So anytime I feel like I shouldn't do that thing, hey, maybe their phone fell in the toilet. But the thing is, here's the problem with the validation. Remember I told you your brain will validate all of your beliefs when they're right or wrong? Mm-hmm. Now, here's what happens if you go in to try to, let me call Justin again, and I say to myself, boy, if I do, he's going to get pissed off. Let's say I do call you and you do get pissed off. If I'm not careful, I'll say, see, I was right. I thought he would be pissed off. Now you validated that. So the next time you try to call somebody and you go through 2 or 3 times and they don't respond, you remember what Justin did. He got pissed off at me. I can't do anymore. And that's how you program yourself negatively.
So one of the things, and I'll just speak to the sales side because I've been in sales my whole life, as you have, right?
Yeah, entrepreneurs.
One of the things that I believe is a key to overcoming some of the stories and beliefs is sell something that you believe is so valuable, you are doing a disservice if you don't follow up with that human. Right? So if I believe Gary needs air,
right,
and I'm selling air,
you're going to do whatever it takes to get it to me.
That's right. Sure. I don't care how many times I have to call, because if Gary doesn't get air, he dies. Right. Now, that is an extreme example. I get that.
But it makes sense.
But if you, like, I sell coaching.
Right.
I am the best in the business to sell coaching because I've been doing it for 17 years. Right. I know what currently works. Yesterday, I bought 6 properties. Friday, we bought 11. Like, this is what I do works. So me, and I don't do my sales anymore, but the point being is, I'm in such belief of the value I provide, I will call someone to infinite.
Sure.
Because I know the value I can give that person.
Additional to the results that you know you get them.
Right.
So what happens is when a person, let's say, is new in business and they haven't done enough of these things that you and I have done, they can't associate the result. They can't associate the selling of the property. They can't associate selling a $50,000 package. But the moment it happens, light goes on. So now they connect rejection with results. No longer rejection, more results.
That's right.
And before you know it, you knock out of your system. That's why you have to play the game consistently, because it's just like flying as pilots. We're required by law to do certain requirements every certain months or every year or whatnot. And the reason being is if you don't do it regularly, you will start to forget and lose some of your confidence. So if you do this consistently, you maintain your confidence. If I don't sell for 6 months and I get going into a program, I'm readjusting my thinking. I'm calibrating my thinking because I'm not used to being in this, beast mode. So it's a mindset consistently, but I know I have it in the past to call back on. And that's why in aviation, we have to legally recalibrate even our instruments, because sometimes your beliefs may be wrong. You have to learn to recalibrate them.
So let's talk to the newbie.
Yeah.
Okay. You and I have these experiences that you can recalibrate based around.
Right. Experience. Past.
Someone's just getting into whatever it is, right? Whether maybe it's real estate. Let's just use that as an easy example. And they're calling. It's not happening. My new sales guy, man, I'm making the calls. Every morning we meet. You're telling me I have this quota. I'm making the calls. I'm doing the thing.
Yep.
We meet at night. I don't have the results. You're listening to how do you program that person to keep the belief in the fortitude, in the determination, in the grit to go maybe 6 months to find the result?
That is a tough question to answer, and I'll tell you why. Because, it's like if somebody says to me, Gary, how do you fly an airplane? I tell people after, there's a short answer and there's a long answer. The shorter answer is push the stick forward, the houses get bigger. Pull the stick back, the houses get smaller.
Yeah.
So with that being said, that question, 10 people could ask me that same exact question. I may have 10 different answers based on the core value and belief system of that person. So if I were to coach that person, I would say to them, let's figure out where that's really coming from. Why do you not believe? You don't believe because you haven't got results. That's not the real reason you don't believe. The real reason you don't believe is because mama said, divorce said, something like that. Then if I can restructure some of that, then I think we'd get better and greater results.
I love that. One of the things that I try to help do to anyone in my world is show results before they get them.
Yeah,
whether it's my own team, whether it's your result, and then I could say, hey, Fred, look at the 6 people that have results.
Right.
You know now that this isn't made up. You know that it is possible. So I try to refresh their confidence there.
And also, what's their track record? Like, if they've been in sales before, they've got something to lean on. If they've never been on sales before, they're going to be at I would tell them in advance. I say, okay, so what's your track record? I've never been in sales before. That person's going to have a harder time because it's going to take them longer to connect. They're going to have more time to have the negative crap in their head. That's why I would encourage them to hustle really fast, really quick, and as much as you possibly can, because it's a numbers game. So sooner or later, you're going to get that positive connect. The longer you wait to follow through, the longer you take to get that connect. And then once you get that connect, if you celebrate too long and not do the next connect, you'll forget that connect.
Yes.
It's a mind game. And ultimately, I want to show people how to play games with their mind instead of their mind playing games with them.
And that's the key, is if you can help people unwind their mind or open their mind, free their mind, because you and I both know this, business is a mind game. It is not necessarily about the X's and O's of business.
100%.
You need your X's and O's, but it is 95, 96% mental.
Yeah.
And if you can help people unlock the ability to have fortitude, to have relentlessness, to have the ability to fail fast and keep going regardless, that is really the power. And that's really what you're an expert at, right? Is to help.
And a lot of people say, what's the difference between what I do and maybe other people? I execute quickly, which means I'll fail faster and learn from it quicker than the average person. Yeah. So I'm up to bat a lot. So just like the Babe Ruth story, right? He's up to bat so much. He's got a lot of strikes, but he's got a lot of home runs.
That's
so
right.
If you're willing to go up to bat. So I have a program where I help entrepreneurs, especially those who want to be like, coaches or who are already coaches. I help them move faster, meaning do a year's worth of income in one event or one day. And I think because we think so small sometimes, like I was very blessed to have a billionaire mentor. And when you hang around a billionaire and see how they live, you realize that, oh crap, what I do is nothing. So if you can get around people like that to expand yourself, it's a game changer. Now, on the contrary, I have zero desire to be a billionaire because I don't personally want to pay the price.
Sure.
Because I have some very good friends that are billionaires. I know so much. I'm not game for it. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you can't take whatever knowledge that you learn from and figure out what level do you want to take it to. I'll let you wrap up with one other thing if you don't mind. And this is a very unusual thought process for some. A lot of times we think when we hire somebody that we need to work with somebody who's done more than we have and so forth. It'd be similar to, I see, you probably work out more than I do. But let's say you never worked out before and you go to a gym and you're really serious about it. And as a guy, you'd be drawn to the guy with the biggest muscles, right? So you're going to go up to that person and say, so how do you get your muscles this big? What's the exercise that you do? And he says, well, you do this, and at the top you hold it here and so forth. And then you go, okay, you're all excited. But what he did not tell you, the reason he's so big is because he's on illegal steroids. So here's the point. The point here is just because somebody makes more than you, their values may be different. I'm a single guy. I don't have kids. I can put in way more hours than the person, hopefully, that's not putting in the hours, that's married with a bunch of kids and is really committed to their relationship and their family. So, Phil Jackson, right, the coach for Michael Jordan, his average points per game as a player was only 7 points a game. Yet he was the coach for Michael Jordan, who did 38 to 50. So the key is you got to use common sense. And here's a reason psychologically why sometimes we as very intelligent people, myself included, if you're not careful, don't use common sense. The reason is if you're not careful, in your mind, you will place a higher status on somebody than they deserve. So, you find somebody who's maybe wealthy or somebody like myself who has books or is on TV. If you're not careful, you will place a higher status, and then you will listen to everything they say, and then you'll be a sheep to the slaughter. And a great example of that, a couple hundreds of years ago, just about everybody on this planet used to believe that the earth was flat, right? Cult leader Jim Jones took, 1,000 people to their death. So I just encourage people, use common sense. So if you're going to get somebody involved into your life, into your business, are their belief systems matching yours? Now, my belief system may not match yours, so let's say if I were to coach you, I would find out what your belief system is, irrelevant to some degree, what mine is, because I need to make sure I base my teaching on what you want and your values and beliefs. Now, I may need to adjust them for you to attain the goal that you want, and you'd have to give me your blessing to do that. But outside of that, I'm going to figure out what are your values and beliefs. That's the first thing I ask. So what are your goals? I want to know what your family is like. What do you want to do? Then we base the business based on what it is that you want in your life and what fulfills you the most. That's the difference.
Any good coach always meets their student or whoever at where they're at and understands where they want to be. Yeah. And that's all you're saying is regardless of your belief, you need to understand your client's belief so 100%. You can be in alignment with that.
Yes.
So that you can help them actually.
And value. What's important to them. Yeah.
Your analogy is perfect, right? When I was single, my value of life was totally different.
100%.
Not my own personal life, but
and you have a child now, right?
3 days a week when I was single. I wasn't in alignment with being a parent or being a husband. I made a lot of money. It was great. I blew it all. It was great. I didn't care. My values were different. Now I have 2 children. I am happily married. I have different value sets, and you will see the difference in what I do and how I perform.
Right.
Because of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Garth Brooks, when his wife was pregnant, he said he's excited. He can't wait to take his wife and his new baby on tour all over. The moment he saw that baby come out of his wife's womb,
I'm not touring anymore.
Boom, tour canceled.
Yep.
Done. Change. Value system can change that quick.
It's amazing.
That's like, say, I got a glass of water here, and I say, here's a glass of water. Let's say you have $1,000 in your pocket. Would you give $1,000 for a glass of water? Probably not. But if I said to you, same glass of water, same $1,000 in your pocket, now your head's on fire. You'd probably consider, well, you don't have as much here as I do. But you know what I mean? But so your values and system can change. One guy, he wanted to quit smoking cigarettes, a friend of mine, and he had a hard time until one day he walks on the hallway of his house, looks over to his 3-year-old daughter's bedroom, and she's pretending to smoke a crayon. Boom.
Quit immediately.
So don't cheat yourself in thinking, no matter what level of motivation you're at, habit, behavior, addiction, that there isn't something out there that can change it that quickly. There is something out there. If you need to make a change that you've been fighting on, there's something out there that can change it that quick. You've just got to figure out where it is and what it is.
So you are an expert at helping coaches, leaders grow their business, help others, refine. Talk about what you're really focusing on right now.
For me personally, myself, well, I laugh and hesitate because I'm so leaving the cult, right? I have different goals and values. Right now, I'm obsessed with learning and growing because I lost so much of my life. And when people hear I wake up at 4:30 every morning, and don't think that you have to wake up early to be successful. My billionaire mentor, he didn't get started till like 10 or 11 sometimes. It's not when you wake up, it's how much time you put in.
That's right.
That's the bottom line. And so for me, I just want to live more, enjoy my life more, and help people. I'm obsessed with helping people. I have a coaching program that I take people in my jet to the Bahamas. I'm sponsored by Sandals Resorts, and we give them an incredible environment. We let them see what it's like to fly in a jet if they don't do it on a regular basis, so they can see a different world. And that's my excitement. I love aviation. I love to help people, and I just want to do more of this. So
you have some pretty cool locations, such as Sandals and beaches.
I'm all into the exotic islands and private flying and everything like that. I've been flying for like 30 years, so it's my passion. I love it, love it, love it.
That is incredible. Well, I really appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you, man.
I want to make sure everyone knows exactly where to find you. So Gary Coxe with an E, Coxe.com.
Right.
All over Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere you go. You can hear this guy thinks different. He believes different. His value sets are different. This is the man, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you. And I have a 1-week program. We do it regular. It's coming around the corner. It's just a couple hours a day where I show people these strategies to really grow quicker and faster. So if they go on my website, or they can go to Increase Profits for Coaches. You don't have to be a coach, but Increase Profits for Coaches, or my website, GaryCoxe.com. You'll see where you can join and hang. It's $300 to spend 2 hours a day with me.
That's amazing. That's amazing value.
It's huge value.
Gary Coxe,
right now,
.com. There's a drop down, so you can go spend a couple hours a day with Gary. Brother, I appreciate you. I know we're going to do a lot here.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate it.
It is great. And if you learned at least one thing from our guy Gary, make sure you share it with at least 2 people. I'll see you on the next episode.
Peace out.
Peace.